Tonight, a Lincoln County man is sounding the alarm.
He believes the fire department's lack of training could cost someone their life. He came face to face with the problem when his wife nearly drowned in Winfield last week. News 4 investigator Lauren Traeger is on that story tonight, finding a lack of critical training.
She's saying, "Don't let me drown, and get me out of the car and we can get to her."
It's a terrifying picture. Chris Beeler's wife stuck in her Jeep on the road to their rural Lincoln County home.
Believe me, she's 100% responsible for her actions.
Water almost always runs over this road in Winfield, but recently construction crews lowered the roadway. Last Friday, after drenching downpours, Beeler says his wife just didn't realize how high the water was.
And I just couldn't get close enough to her.
A 911 call brought the Winfield Foley Fire Department.
A sense of relief. I'm like, the cavalry's here, it's going to be okay.
But shockingly,
they weren't able to engage.
Beeler says firefighters stood by, not doing much.
No disrespect to anybody that was on the scene that night, but maybe those guys on the scene that night don't have the proper training or didn't have the proper equipment or didn't know what they were supposed to do.
Beeler, standing on the other side of the creek, says it was clear he'd have to save his wife himself.
Basically, the car just ripped away and ripped her out of the car and washed down the creek, and then she went into water and then I went into water.
The car was swept nearly a mile away. The next day they found it submerged in the water filled with thick mud. His wife could have died, but Beeler wonders why the rescue team didn't do more to save her.
I 100% feel for the family. It's a very eye-opening and terrifying experience.
We went straight to Winfield Foley Fire Chief Nathan Schnell.
I stand behind my guys and what they did, although it wasn't perfect.
He tells us the problem is that no one in his department is trained in swift water rescue.
Just not really available at this time here, unfortunately.
News 4 has been along as other bigger departments have done their training, but Chief Schnell says it's a difficult and expensive undertaking for their volunteer department.
Dry suits, helmets, the appropriate rigging systems, life jackets, everything that it takes to have a proper swift water rescue team. We really lack the resources.
The purpose of the training to teach and demonstrate companies to a water awareness skill level. We're not doing any swift water stuff or anything crazy here tonight. If you guys got a chance to read the GOG, there's a couple main points on there that we're going to go over real quick. One of the GOG states, never enter still or moving water unless trained in water emergency. That's what we're here tonight, to give you guys some training for these situations. If you do have to send somebody into the water, that you guys are going to be equipped and have some knowledge of making some safe decisions. Never wear your turnout gear in the water. That's a big one, guys. Just don't do it. Every year we see pictures of people out in water calls and turnout gear and all that, and we're trying to avoid that at all costs. Must have your PFD on within 15 feet of the water. That's a big one. How many of you guys actually worn a PFD in the city of Greensboro on a call? Several of you guys. Do me a favor, know your equipment, get to know your equipment tonight. If you guys have any issues, if you're missing anything, if anything's broken or whatnot, throwbacks too, let us know and we'll get you guys some new equipment. So being prepared, going over turnout gear again. Something that you guys can do that's real easy is being prepared for water events. Like during today, we checked the weather. Go ahead and do that, you guys. Take your PFDs, your throwbacks, put them in the cab with you. Grab some water shoes, some old tennis shoes or whatever it is, some shorts, so you guys can go in. If you guys have to go into the water, you're not having to put on turnout gear. Know how to put your PFDs on. A big one is what we're trying to get to. If you ever do have a victim in the water, trying to get them that PFD first before anything else, right? Reach, throw, go is what we're trying to preach tonight. So know these jackets tonight. We're going to do some demonstrations, go out, do a couple swims, get comfortable in these jackets while you guys got them. General safety, know the equipment on your truck. Like I said, be proactive with it. Know the capabilities of your people. That's the biggest thing here tonight. So if you do find yourself in a situation where you have to put somebody in the water as a captain or whoever's in charge riding, make sure you know the limitations of your people. Who's comfortable in the water, who can go make that swim, or who can go in there. You and your crew come first. So any questions? All right, we'll get started first. If you guys got an extra set of turnout gear, go ahead and throw that on. And
I need a river. You gotta pick one. You want to rescue or you want to swimmer? Alright, so start getting that water saturation in. Let's just start going to shallow end. You don't go in your chest, you go in your back. Flat on top.
You do feel it.
Try to swim as hard as you can. There you go. Try to get that swimming going on.
First thing we're going to talk about is victim approaches. Just like everything we do in the fire department, come off the truck, you know what you're grabbing, right? So fire attack, search and rescue, ventilation, whatever, you know what you're coming off of the truck with, what assignments are doing, what. We're trying to get that same concept for you guys with water. So coming off the truck, knowing the people, making those decisions early, and so you guys know who's going in the water if somebody needs to make a swim, or who's doing what in different positions, right? So the victim approach is what we're trying to teach. If there is a conscious victim in the water, what's the worst thing that can happen in this situation? Right? I lose control. I become part of the problem, right? So what we're trying to teach you guys is to remain in control at all times. So the best way to do that, Jonathan, you're my victim. What I'm doing is as I'm approaching him, I'm stopping here. I'm stopping short. I'm creating a buffer between me and Jonathan, or me and the victim. So if he starts coming towards me, I can back myself up and keep control of the situation. So as I'm doing that, one thing that we're trying to teach is, as you're making that approach and everything, to calm yourself down too, right? So I'm working on calming this victim down the whole time, but there's a lot of things that can happen between here and here between a victim. So I'm trying to teach this approach to a victim as it's more calm and slow down. You don't want to rush yourself into the situation coming off the truck, making a swim, and putting yourself in a bad situation, right? So keep that space, keep that distance between you and that victim, and it's a timing thing. So I can sit here all day and talk to this guy and try to calm him down, but I have that distance between us because I don't want him to get a hold of me, right? Does that make sense? Another thing we talk about is controlled entries into the water. Nothing we do, no water around Greensboro, or we're going to do diving headfirst into something, correct? Make sense? So a lot of the stuff, lakes, creeks, and ponds, is the controlled entry into the water. One thing that happens if you come in and you're not in control and your head goes under the water, what happens to my sight of the victim? Right? So it takes me a second to adjust my eyes, come up out of the water, and I can lose my victim. So once you make eye contact with that person, make sure that you guys keep constant contact, visual contact with that person. As you enter the water, you're talking to that person the whole time, communicating. Hey, calm down, I got you. Back up, turn around, calm down, calm down. What I'm trying to do is the best place to approach a victim is from behind. So I'm trying to get my angle and get back behind him. And as I make my approach, I got my hand on his shoulder, up underneath his arm, I'm making my swim. I'm watching his face the whole time, making sure that his airway's up, out of the water, and I can make a swim. If he wants to get squirrely on me, I can grab him and stay in control of this situation. As a victim, as a rescuer, if my victim starts to sink, is that a bad thing for me? Not really. But I'm going to be in control when I'm in control. What we're trying to avoid is that person grabbing a hold of me. In that situation, like I said, the worst case scenario is you lose control of the situation. When you do decide to make that grab, be aggressive, all right? Smart timing things, so don't rush yourself into the situation. So controlled entry into the water, keep your space, keep your distance, and then when you make a grab, go in there and do it the right way. Make sense? All right, we're gonna as I jump into the water, feet first, I'm not jumping straight down like a pencil and sinking. What I'm trying to do is jump out into the water. And as I hit the water, I'm making a treading water motion with my arm, trying to keep my head over the water. It's a lot easier with the life vest on, but you're trying to jump out into the water. Make sense? This way. I'm in the fire department. Come to the rescue. This is the fire department. We're coming to help you. I want to be a rescue swimmer. Excellent entry. It builds confidence in the calm down. Drowning victim. There we go. Maintain voice contact with them. Move behind them. There you go. You're in control. Hey, think of this as someone you know. Okay, when you enter that water, make that connection as if it was someone that's close to you. You're going to talk to them the entire time. You're not just going to get in the water and be like, I'm here. You get in the water. You're going to get in the water like, hey, it's okay. I'm coming to you. Are you okay? What happened? Are you okay? Excellent! Yes, that's right.
That's just because he's so tall. He was standing in the bottom.
Yeah.
Find some water.
Now, raise up a little bit. The way Captain has his arm across, that's excellent. That's perfect position with the VFD. Takes his airways out of the water. You can control and all that splashing going on. We're going to show you guys some ways to move people in the water and getting them out, victim removals. A couple tools to put in your toolbox. Most likely, if you arrive on scene, how is the victim going to be presenting himself?
Probably face down.
Face down, face up, right? So face down, yeah. Face up, what's one thing you can do right away once you get to that guy?
Blow in the face.
You can give them a quick assessment, right? Are they breathing? Are they conscious? Are they bleeding? Are they talking? Whatever it is, you guys can make that assessment real quick and check that airway and make sure that's going right. Two ways. Jonathan, you be my victim first. Go on your back. First thing you're in, I get to him. I got his arms pinched, his biceps and his elbows, back behind his head, on his ears. And what am I doing right now? I'm moving, right?
Yeah.
As I'm moving, what is that doing? So with the movement and keeping them moving, it didn't make sense to me either. I read it in the EMT protocols and it was make large sweeping circles with that victim in the water. So if I stop and I hold him there, if I stand still with him, his feet drop and his head starts to go underwater. So I'm sitting there, and if I keep that momentum going, his legs playing out and he's staying on top of the water. It's a lot easier to make movement. What's going on up here? What are your other guys doing? If you're the rescue swimmer, you get to that victim, what is your guys doing up top? Backboard, coming up with a game plan, right? How to get somebody out. Like I said, lakes, creeks, ponds, right? So you're not always going to find the best access point to get somebody in and out of the water. So it's buying them some time to come up with that game plan while you're moving them in the water, right? Face down. What I'm doing is I'm getting his arms out in front and I start moving them forward and I'm rolling them to me. So real smooth transition, right? So if I just go over to Jonathan and try to just log roll him over there, it doesn't work very well, especially with bigger guys like Taylor and everything like that. That's a lot of mass to move and you're trying to hold C-spine and make that transition smooth. It doesn't work like that. So get their arms forward, get them moving a little bit. That gets their legs up out of the water too. And then you can just roll them and transition them onto your shoulder. Make sense? You guys pair off and try it real quick. Go face down, face up. One of the things that we can do is use the backboard to get somebody up out of the water. Always use common sense in this situation, right? So you guys arrive on scene, somebody's been face down, unwitnessed, in the water for a while. Go out there and do this thing around the water, right? This is just some of the things that can help you in this situation. There is suspected C-spine, getting somebody out of the water. This is a very controlled way to do it here with the backboard. Just like how we move somebody on a stretcher, safe basket, whatever it is, teamwork, communication, and making sure that one person is calling the shots here, right? So we're gonna get a victim, get them close to the wall, put that backboard underneath them, slide them up out. I like the guy in the water with the victim actually giving that command, because this guy tends to want to come up off that board, right? So I don't want somebody just pulling on this guy's arms if they're not ready. But when you guys do get this victim here, slow it down. Slow it down. For some reason, with firemen, we want to hurry up and get them here and get them up out of the water. Smooth to slow, right? Slow and smooth, smooth and slow, right? Smooth and fast, one of those. Anyway, but slow it down when you get here. Make sure everybody has a good grip and you guys have a game plan of how to get them up out of the water. So Jonathan, you do round two, you're my victim. You do my rescuer. Jonathan, me and you will be up top. All right, he made patient contact. Brian, I got a board right here. All right, got one patient, unconscious. All right, patient breathing, unconscious, making our way to you. All right, coming up to the board. Patient's on board. All right, I got a hand. And lifting up, 1, 2, 3, up.
We're gonna move, we're gonna roll. Right? Move in a circle.
Say, hey, look, over here, we got a backboard ready.
Over here, we got a backboard ready.
Hey, they got a backboard, man. They got a backboard. There we go, we come in. Come make contact.
I got a wrist.
All right, prepare to lift. Lift.
This is the state, typically what we have every year. We have these widespread storms. Somebody decides to try to make it through a flooded roadway, and all of a sudden now their vehicle stalls out, they're stuck, they call 911. And if they still exist, the front page of the paper the next day has firemen walking somebody out of the car. So this basically just going over some size up kind of topics to make it for the companies to whether decide to make it a go or no-go situation. Demonstrating the technique, and then actually you guys then performing that technique. So I've been asking everybody, one for my response, but two for if anybody may be new to that station and things like that. Does anybody have any areas that are susceptible to flooding when we have these widespread storms?
Throwbacks. We want to start just talking about how to set up the throwback. So most of them will have a drawstring on them, and the drawstring is good to keep cinched down when you're transporting it to the bank location. Once you got it in the position to make your throws, loosen that drawstring all the way up. Expand the top of the pouch. That'll allow your rope to freely play out of the bag. Then you basically have a grab handle that's typically adjustable. I like to loosen these all the way up, so again, I don't have any encroachment on the bag itself or on the line, and it'll play out freely. In the end of the line, you're gonna have a knot. Make sure that you don't pass your wrist or your hand all the way through this and firmly attach this to your person. You want to always be able to release a throw bag when it's under load and make sure that you don't get pulled into the river inadvertently. There's 3 basic throwing methods. We have underhand, sidearm, and overhand or football throw. Each one of those throws are effective for different scenarios, different environments, and different applications. So in my opinion, and with me as a thrower, the football throw or the overhand throw is a short controlled throw. It's got a high to low trajectory, so it's a great throw to use from watercraft for shorter throws, or if you're on an area of the bank where either you're standing in water or you've got a lot of brush around you and obstacles and debris where you've got to get over that stuff and clear it to get to the victim. That's where I'm going to use a football or overhand throw. If I need a little more distance, but I still have that same environment, throwing from a watercraft or a lot of ground debris or brush, then I'm going to use a sidearm throw. Sidearm throws are all about the release points. So you get a high side arc, and you got to make sure that when you release the bag, it's on a good angle going towards the victim. When we're throwing at victims coming down current, we want to try and throw right at them. Don't try and lead them. If you end up upriver from them a little bit, it's not the end of the world, because typically the bag is going to travel faster than the victim and it's going to end up at the victim. You can also always coach a victim to stay in that defensive swimming position and backpedal hard or kick hard to kind of hold position, let that bag catch up to them. Conversely, if you try to lead them, excuse me, if you try to lead them and the bag ends up downriver from them, they're going to try and chase the bag, which is going to put them into a forward aggressive downward river swim, and that's one of the most hazardous swim positions we can stay in. So avoid that. Make the victim your target. The last throw application is an underhand throw. For underhand throws, we need to be able to have low clearance and be able to freely swing that bag. Again, release point is everything. You don't want to get a real high arc on the bag unless you have to clear something. The higher up the bag gets in the air, the longer it takes to get to the victim, the more the wind can shift it off target, so on and so forth. So nice low trajectory when you release it. Our objective is to always get the bag past the victim and have the rope basically end up right on top of the victim. The next thing we want to discuss is what we do, how we coach the victim through securing the rope. We're big advocates of encouraging people to tell the victim to take the rope and put it on their inside shoulder, meaning the shoulder that is closest towards the middle of the river, not the bank. If you lock in on the bank shoulder and you've got really significant current, the first thing that will happen is typically the victim will roll over. They'll end up on their bellies and they'll take a face full of water. That's a bad position to put your victims in. The opposite of that is coaching them to put it on that inside river shoulder, or the shoulder towards the middle of the river. As soon as they lock that in, that sets a natural ferry angle of their head towards the receiving bank, and the current's going to naturally push them right towards you. Remember your body belay techniques. So once they receive that, we want to make sure that we pass the rope around our rear end and our lower back so that the rope is playing off of our downriver hip. We don't want the rope wrapped around our upriver hip because it can get ensnared and pull us into the river. We want to make sure that we can release it if need be. So we'll go through each of these progressions and let you see step by step what each of these look like. Okay, so I'm a right-handed thrower. I'm in position. I've loosened up my drawstring. I'm going to go ahead and put the knot in my left hand and just hold that around my fingers. Remember, don't pass your hand through it, regardless of throwing technique. Overhand, sidearm, or underhand. As soon as I send that bag, I want to immediately pass this rope behind me so that the rope is on my downriver hip and control the belay from here. I like to practice being near a tree where I'm just upriver from that tree. So that if I get a significant load on this boat and I don't want to lose that victim or lose whatever's holding on to the end of the rope, I can use that tree as a secondary friction element by just simply progressing down to that tree and letting the rope pass around the tree. That's an especially effective technique if I'm throwing in the water. So if we're in a flood-like state and I'm 6 feet out in the water, I've got water up to my waist, I'm not going to be very effective at body belaying. It's really important that I be just upriver from a fixed point to go ahead and get that point of friction and be able to manage that victim as they come in. So Doug's going to go ahead and navigate downriver, and we'll do each one of our throws. We'll start with a short controlled football throw. Go ahead, Doug. Before I send the rope to Doug, I'm going to make sure I give him a verbal call out of rope. Rope! Doug's going to lock that in, pass that around to my downriver hip, get a good seated position. If I start to lose footing, I'm simply going to sit down. You notice that Doug put that right on his left shoulder and drifted right into shore. Same sequence. Next throw is going to be a sidearm throw. So this would imply I've got some debris that I want to try and clear. It's a little harder to be accurate with the sidearm, but I can get more velocity, more distance than I can with an overhand throw. Go ahead, Doug. So I'm going to get a good swinging motion to get myself set. Rope! Right across him, get him in my body blade, put it on your left shoulder.
Good.
Last one's the underhand throw. Underhand is typically where we're going to get our greatest distance and be the most accurate. You just got to make sure you don't sky it. A lot of guys will send it straight up in the air. So just think about it. Again, same throwing motion. Rope! Right at the victim, get it over them. Left hand! Lock that in on your hip. If you need that second friction point, come right across that tree.
Rock!
Last thing to discuss is quick reloads and quick rethrows. So on your initial throw, always try to hit the victim when they're upriver from your position. That way if you miss the throw, the bag is already deployed. Don't try and get the bag all the way back into the bank before you make a second throw. Once it's out there and you got the tail of that rope in your hand, you're going to pull full arm lengths and make a couple quick pulls. So 1, 2, whatever you think you need distance-wise to get back to the victim. As soon as you've got that recoiled, you can throw right from that knot in. Just simply switch hands, anchor that rope or step on that rope, and go right back to a throwing motion, and then deploy that rope out to wherever the victim's at.